Uranium enrichment is currently a hot topic in the news because of the attacks of Israel against Iran. And I also noticed that it's widely discussed within the public. Therefore, I decided to make a short video about how uranium enrichment is working and why it is important for creating weapons and also for peaceful usage. Uranium itself is simply a metal that can be found on the Earth's surface, just like aluminum or iron. The main difference is that uranium consists of heavy nuclei that can either radioactively decay or split up into smaller nuclei by releasing energy. In order to understand this a little bit deeper, we just take a look at the uranium nucleus, which always has 92 protons, but the number of neutrons can differ. And we call these different nuclei isotopes of uranium, as you might have heard in the chemistry education at school. The number that you always hear in combination with the letter U gives you the total number of protons and neutrons together. So, for example, uranium-235 has in total 92 protons but 143 neutrons. The two most common isotopes of uranium that you can find in nature are uranium-238 with a ratio of 99.3%, which is therefore also by far the most common one, and uranium-235 with a ratio of only 0.7%. Most of the currently available uranium is mined underground at depths of around 100 to 2000 meters. However, you can also find it at the Earth's surface and even inside seawater, but here the extraction process is just too costly to be used for mass production. After mining the uranium, it first has to be purified by certain filtering and extraction processes in order to remove unwanted elements and also to increase the amount of uranium inside the mined material. Then, with the help of some special chemical reactions, this uranium is then converted into uranium hexafluoride or UF6. This special chemical compound is colorless and also poisonous, but as we will see later, very important for the enrichment process. Compared to other heavy nuclei in nature, uranium has a very low binding energy per nucleon, as we can see here in this image, because of the non-optimal combination of protons and neutrons. This means that the binding energy increases if such a nucleus splits up into smaller nuclei with a smaller number of protons and neutrons. Such a process is called nuclear fission, and it usually happens completely randomly. One example is the fission of uranium-235 into the nuclei barium and krypton. The difference here in the binding energies between the mother nucleus and the daughter nuclei is around 200 megaelectron-volt. During the fission process, this energy is then released in the form of heat, which could be used, for example, to heat up water in a nuclear power plant. And just to get an idea about the magnitude of energy that is released, you would need approximately 10 to the power 18 times more energy to heat up 1 gram of water by 1 degree Celsius. This immediately leads to the question, how more energy can be taken out from that? And the answer is quite simple. Whenever such a fission happens, there are also, in addition, neutrons released. One or more of these neutrons can then hit other uranium nuclei. In the case of uranium-238, nothing special happens because it actually absorbs the neutrons. In the case of uranium-235, however, this absorption process induces a nuclear fission. Since we generally have more than one neutron, every nucleus can induce multiple fission processes, finally ending up in a chain reaction, resulting in a release of a huge amount of energy and an explosion. And this process is therefore used in nuclear bombs. In a nuclear power plant, however, you want to avoid such a chain reaction and instead reach to a stable fission rate. In order to achieve this, you can add materials which absorb some of the neutrons and as a result lead to a so-called critical state where you have one fission per nucleus. This makes a nuclear reactor in principle completely safe to use, as long as you include safety measures that completely prevent a possible chain reaction. Now the question is how to extract the small amount of uranium-235 from all natural uranium that you have mined. For this purpose, a process called uranium enrichment is used. which actually contains many different methods, but the one on which I will concentrate in this video is also the most common one. And this one uses centrifuges in order to increase the amount of uranium-235. The advantage of uranium hexafluoride that I have already mentioned before is that it always tends to go into its gas phase already at room temperature. This makes it then possible to let the gas diffuse into large centrifuges which spin with a very high speed. Since uranium-238 has more nucleons, it is heavier than uranium-235, and therefore the centrifugal force acting on these atoms is also greater. This means that some of the uranium-238 tends to go to the outer rim of the centrifuges, whereas the concentration of the uranium-235 in the center increases. This is the reason why the uranium-235 is always extracted close to the center of the centrifuges. However, it has to be taken into account that the mass difference between uranium-235 and uranium-238 is very small. As a result, the enrichment that you get after such a process is usually less than 1%. This is also the reason why for uranium enrichment you actually need thousands of these centrifuges in order to reach enrichment values of larger than, for example, 90%. In practice, all these centrifuges are connected in the form of a cascade where the uranium from one centrifuge is injected into the following one. However, an enrichment of more than 90% is only important if you want to build nuclear bombs, because here you need a very strong chain reaction, releasing a huge amount of energy within a short time interval. In contrast to this, a nuclear reactor requires a much smaller amount of enrichment, for example only a few percent, which then also makes it much easier to produce it and reduces the amount of effort that you have to put in. The final product is then stored in huge gas tanks from where it can then be processed further. And the most important thing is now to make it more compact, which means you have to increase the density by using again some certain chemical processes. For example, for a nuclear bomb you would need uranium in its metal form, which means that you have to remove the fluor atoms from the uranium. For a nuclear reactor, however, you typically want to have uranium dioxide, which means that you have to replace the fluor atoms with oxygen atoms. This is in principle everything which you need in order to complete your uranium enrichment. And as you can see, the whole process is actually straightforward and very simple to understand. However, the details of every step are highly complex and require a lot of knowledge and also experience. In addition, this whole process must be supervised and monitored by the International Atomic Energy Agency, IAEA, to make sure that no country goes beyond the limit of enrichment which is required for a certain purpose. Because of this huge number of nucleons, the density of uranium is also 19 times larger than the one of water. This means even a huge quantity of 500 kilogram does not occupy a volume which is larger than 30 cubic centimeter and can therefore be easily transported from one place to another. However, such a huge amount of uranium cannot be transported in one block because of something which is called critical mass. As long as the volume is small enough, most of the neutrons leave the uranium without creating more than one nuclear fission per nucleus. But if the mass of such a uranium block exceeds a value of 50 kilogram, the fission rate gets larger than 1, which finally results in an overcritical state and then leads eventually to an explosion. Due to this reason, many accidents have happened already in the past because people were not very careful about that, and I can maybe in the future make another video explaining some of these accidents. I really hope that you enjoyed this video. If you want to see more of it, please write it into the comment sections. And always remember, physics matters. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you like the content and want to see more of it, please like and subscribe. And in addition, any kind of support is always appreciated.